Well, good evening, everybody. Um, Sorry for being here so late, but I've had a very long day, and I just want to bring at least my portions of this Isle of Man crap to a close. Um, yeah, I won't be addressing the chat. I won't be doing all this because I just want this to be done and done really quickly because I need to get to bed. It is 12:30 at night here. Anyway, 10 things that are wrong with now these are my own findings. These aren't the findings of anybody else. Honestly, I've been told that all of this has already been debunked and all the buildings have been identified by other people and stuff like that, and that's cool. I mean, I would actually love to have had the time to do that this time, but I didn't have the time. And no, I haven't watched all of these videos, but I know the base claim is that you can see Ireland from St. Bees, and various points of the Isle of Man are being claimed as portions of Ireland, and also, uh, yeah, lighthouse and all this other shit. I don't know if anybody else is running a hangout right now. I know that Sean sent me a message, or at least I got a notification that he was going live tonight. I really don't know, but I don't have a lot of time tonight. But anyway, so let's just go over. These are my findings. These are not anybody else's findings. So we'll just go on this. And I've apparently been accused of being afraid to go to Nathan's hangout to discuss this. Well, guess what, Nathan? Your narcissism and your incipient need to um, talk over people, insult people, and go that whole route and stuff like that. That's why your shit doesn't get taken seriously. Okay, that's why you will never get somebody who's actually performed their own research. Uh, yeah, you won't find that on your channel, man. Even when you eject your own people, but whatever. You won't find me on there, and I don't know why you find it necessary to withhold the actual footage. I've never claimed that the footage has been faked or anything like that, but it would surely be nice to actually have the high res stuff instead of making captures off of videos. But since you find it necessary to hide that from everybody up till now, despite how many times you guys have been asked, yeah. So anyway, let's go to the first thing that I found. This was something that was claimed. The shape of the Castletown building. Castletown building is it's a hotel and whatever. It's out on the southeast, or well, the southernmost point of uh, the Isle of Man, and there's a big building on there. And it was stated, I think it was today. It was stated that this building is corresponds with something that's on the footage, and so it was said that this building, which according to, I think it was Ranty, I don't know. Again, Nathan doesn't know how to run a hangout and doesn't show the people that are actually participating, so it's impossible to tell who's actually talking. But even though I know Anthony's voice and I know Nathan's voice, but there seems to be other people in there, and I don't know who they are. So, but it was claimed, and I think it was claimed by Ranty, that this 100-foot tall 4-story building, which is actually built split level on a slant, meaning that the front side of it is only about or about 3 floors, and the back side of it is 4 floors because it's actually on a slant. Is this smudge right here, this rectangular smudge right here? Well, there's a problem with that. Okay, and this is the pictures that they were showing, and they showed a couple other ones and stuff. But one thing that they seem to have left out is the fact that there is a big fat tower in the middle of it. It's not very tall, but it's about equally tall as about another 2, maybe even 3 floors. Okay, something you do not see here. It's not here. Okay, very simple. Now we all know that this is being claimed as the lighthouse, so we will just go. So basically, this is not this building. Um, we all know that the white blob is being claimed as the lighthouse. Well, the lighthouse is all white, and the surrounding buildings are all white. So if you were going to see this, then you would see basically an inverse T shape. You don't see that. Okay. This is not the lighthouse. Period. That's all it is. It's not the lighthouse. I don't care, what it actually is at this point in time. I'm just saying that it's not the lighthouse because if you got this much white out of it, then you should get a inverse T shape right down here. Okay? It's that simple. Now, the height of the Castletown building versus the lighthouse height. Now, this is another interesting point. The lighthouse height is approximately 31 meters above the water, from the top all the way down to the water. Approximately 31 meters. Okay, the tower itself is the focal height, which is the center of the beam of the light coming from the lighthouse, is I think they said 23 meters, and it's sitting on 8 meters of land, 8 meters above sea level of land. Okay, whereas the golf building is sitting on about 7 to maybe even 8 meters high of land, and I gave it about 12 to 13 meters of building. Okay, it's not 100 feet, dude. Okay, each floor is tops maybe 3 meters. Okay, so now given those two things, the grand total of the golf building's height is about 20 meters off the water. The lighthouse is 31 meters off the water, a whole nother third up. Okay, so the lighthouse would not be lower than the supposed golf building. Okay, that's pretty simple too. Okay, now since they claim that they can see Ireland beyond this, it's basically being stated that these two things are basically on this little outcropping, and all back here is Ireland. Okay, that's just basically what's being claimed. Okay, there is a hill way out in line with the. This is a line going from St. Bees all the way to Ireland. Okay, going right through the center of what would be the tower on that building, on the golf building. So let me go ahead and scroll all the way back here. Yes, an incredible distance further away. And there is a hill, rather tall hill, right here. Oops, sorry, right here. This is a line to the peak of that hill, but it's still quite high over here. Okay, this is Saggart Hill. Saggart Hill is a very high point behind Dublin. Here's Dublin. Okay. Now, and mind you, please also take note of the size of the city of Dublin. It's pretty damn big. But the Castletown building versus Saggart Hill. Across a flat plain, here is St. Bees. Here is where the lighthouse and the Castletown building is. Here's Saggart Hill, just in size comparison. Do you see the problem here? There is absolutely no way in hell that you would see this with a sky background. You would see Saggart Hill quite large above in the background. And I'll get into the math on that in a second. But since you don't see it, that means you're either A, not seeing that far, so therefore you're not seeing Ireland, or B, there's something missing here. You would not be able to see this building, according to them. You would see more of this darkness in the back going up quite high. I would say, actually, I think it's about this high behind the golf building. Since that's missing, you're either not seeing Ireland or we're talking about curvature of the Earth. Or that's not even that building. So, oops, did I write that twice? Oh, that's right. Yes, I guess I did write that twice. Oh, that's the, oh, I'm sorry. This is the lighthouse height. Yeah, and I jumped back one too far. Sorry. Anyway, the terrain behind the Castletown building. Now, the Castletown building itself, I actually had this pointer up on the beginning of the building and it rose up to 9 meters. It's actually 7 meters. And that's my mistake on this screen capture. This is the direction of St. Bees. This is the direction of Dublin and the lighthouse and all that stuff. Do you notice that this goes up several meters behind it? As a matter of fact, how many meters is that supposedly saying there? Sorry, I cropped it too short. 15 meters. At 7 meters and 15 meters is a peak. This is in the direct line. Okay. So that puts us at what? You got this much increase behind the building. Therefore, you wouldn't see this building even if it was sitting on its own land. It would be a nice rounded top and nobody ever even would have noticed that it was there. Okay? This is just simple stuff. This is not any kind of wild, mathematical wizardry here. This is just the terrain you're dealing with. Got it? It's just the terrain. And for anybody who's watching right now, I see that I have, hey, 67 viewers. Cool. I am not addressing the chat. I'm just trying to make this into a short video before I go to bed. So let me keep on going. So anyway, the terrain of the actual golf course, it raises behind the building. It actually inclines across the building because on this side of it, you can see like 4 stories or 4 stories on this side. And then on this side, you can only see about 2 or 3. It's on an incline. So you wouldn't be able to see the building anyway because the land would be too high behind it. That's another very just simple point. Now, this is something I worked out last night. The degrees of separation between the lighthouse and the supposed golf building. Now, the lighthouse from St. Bees is at an azimuth of 234.57 degrees. The center of the supposed golf building is at 235, or excuse me, the golf building itself, when measured on Google Earth, is at 235.25 degrees. Okay, this is you can look this up. All you have to do is just run a line. It's not difficult. Okay, I ran a line to the golf building. I ran a line to the lighthouse. Oh, and somebody made a comment today that I didn't even know about what lighthouses and stuff like that. Now, if you're referring to anything about lighthouses, I didn't know because it was never part of a discussion that there's actually a lighthouse on the northern tip as well. But yeah, so go ahead and point that out. Anyway, actually, in reality, the lighthouse from St. Bees is 234.57 degrees. The golf building is 235.25 degrees. Okay, comes out to 0.68 degrees spread between here. This is just azimuth. That's all it is. So if we use that into increments, I zoomed out a little bit on my captures because we don't have any of the high res stuff because nobody wants to give it to us. Wonder what you're hiding or why you feel it necessary to hide. So here's this. There's the white blob. There's the center of the supposed golf building, and the 0.68 degrees. Now, all this is just a replication of that increment, as if you were rotating to the right. Now, I did 5 of these, comes out to 3.4 degrees, and it goes to, from the left of these 4 dots that are up on the hill, it goes to, it hits right dead in the center of the third one from left to right. Okay, so that's 3.4 degrees. 3.4 degrees, also shown here from the center of what is claimed to be the golf building, and the third dot from the left. I measured that out. Again, this is just increments. This is increments of rotation. This is azimuth. Okay, has nothing to do with actual measurements of distance. This has to do with your angle of view. So I worked it out all the way here because what I want to find out is, where is this mountain? Okay, now this is a mountain that's not even going down because it actually goes up beyond here. But this is 17 degrees from the supposed center of the golf building to the top of this peak. Now, we were told, or I was told, that somebody figured out what that was, and I checked up on it, and it was correct. But I'll go into what that peak is here in a second. Now, what I want to show you is that this is a separation of 17 degrees, just by simple incremental rotation. That's all it is. So 235.25, which is the center of the building, 235.25 plus 17 degrees is 252 times 20 or dot 25. Where does that bring us? Well, let's go to St. B's and find out. Okay. Oops, shoot. I want to make sure that both of these are visible at the same time. Okay, 252.25. I will bring this also over. Now we'll go down here to St. B's. Okay. 252.25. Now I'm going to go out here into the water here so I can go nice and fine with it. 252.25. Okay. I'm going to save this. I'm just not going to call it anything for right now. This is the line of sight of 252.25. Now, what you're going to notice here, there's no mountains there. In fact, there's no mountains at all there. Now, you can see how this actually does drop off, and there is the remainder of a bump right there. But then it goes basically flat plane here. Okay? Whereas, so what basically is being said here is that, according to the claim that the white blob is the lighthouse and the rectangle is the golf house, and back here is Ireland, then that means that from here to here is pretty much the majority of the Isle of Man. None of these mountains are obviously visible between here and here, where they would all have to be there, because all of these mountains are between those 2 points. Now, in case anybody's wondering, this is actually the hilltop that's there. Okay, this guy right here. I forgot what they called it. There's a wacky name for it. I don't remember what it is. You can look it up yourself. As a matter of fact, here's the coordinates. Look down there on the bottom. All good? Okay. So this right here shows that either the Isle of Man is not as big as they say it is, or it's bigger than they say it is, or something like that. Or the simple measurements, the azimuth measurements from here to here, do not depict the lighthouse, the separation between the lighthouse and the golf building. It's just that simple. Okay. The north-south separation. Now, the first part of any of this that I ever saw was actually Riley saying that this area here, it starts with the berm, this area here was not the Isle of Man because it stopped. Okay, it ended right there. And I admit that, yeah, in the footage, it does not look like the land continues. Okay. But he used that as an excuse to say that this was not the Isle of Man, or not any portion of the Isle of Man. Well, the Isle of Man, in short, it goes real low, and then it kind of comes back up again. Okay, it goes down and then comes back up again. Now, according to your logic, Anthony, this, also a photo of the Isle of Man, must also mean that the Isle of Man is 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces at least, with water in the middle, because that's your claim. Okay? This is the Isle of Man. This is just the northern wing of the entire island, which has some terrain features on it. But between this and the mountain range, it goes really, really low level. That's all it is. So you're wrong on that one too. The berm and bride, just so we can also get on this. This is Google Earth. This is my screen captures of the footage. This is this berm. This is the village of Bride. This is the dip here and here between them. I mean, hopefully we can all be on it, and then this is where it tapers off. It's not difficult to find this stuff. This is the town of Bride. I'll show you where the town of Bride is. Oops. Here's the berm. Here's the town of Bride. It's up on a hill. There's the town of Bride up there. There's the berm. That's what you're seeing. And there is nothing here to correspond it to anything else. Now, Anthony also has some kind of an argument about something that he claims to see here. Without the original footage, I will never be able to see it. He claims there's some kind of a smokestack, but I've seen 3 different versions now of this particular area, zooming in on this area, and that smokestack seems to be one time it's like here, one time it's here. So my only interpretation of that is that it's not actually on the island. It's actually out in the water. I don't know what it is because you can't see it. And all the Google Street View stuff of the Isle of Man is mostly foggy. You can barely even see the water. So I have no answer for that, but that doesn't mean that it means anything. Okay. Here's my next question. Where the hell is Dublin? Dublin is a very large city. Okay. Lots of buildings, lots of colors, lots of contrasts and stuff like that. It's not a solid color city. Okay. And yet, for some reason, against that kind of a backdrop of an entire city, we can make out this white blob as being a lighthouse. That just doesn't even make logical sense. And there's something else about that. Namely, actually from the direction of view to St. Bees, I drew the line, you'll see in a second, these 2 huge ass smokestacks, over 200 meters tall each. Yes, they are also over 200 kilometers away. Obviously not from this photo. This is just taken from across the bay. This is Google Street View. Okay, now I'm going to show you why this is important. It's very important, actually. Here's the math of perspective. Now, first thing I did was I drew out, this is a perspective view. Okay, I'm looking through camera. I'm not looking at the orthographic view. And all I did was, these were not meant to be by their azimuth. I just did them from left to right. This is the lighthouse. This is the height of the lighthouse. This is the height of the smokestacks that you were just looking at distance. This is the height of Saggart Peak, or Saggart Hill, or whatever it's called. This is the height that Saggart Hill, it tapers off, of course. This is the height that Saggart Hill would be behind the golf building. This is actual 3D, and it's backed up also by very easy math. Okay, but let's do the graphic first. This is what you should be in now, obviously in varying levels of quality. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, it wouldn't be as sharp, but obviously noticeable. This is actually from St. B's, zoomed into this apparent level of being able to see the lighthouse and the supposed golf building. This is actually where the smokestacks would be and how big they would be in relation to these two buildings. That's no bullshit. Okay, the smokestacks, they are at from St. B's. They are at 234.09 degrees. They stand 211 meters. Actually, the two of them, they differ by about a meter or something like that, but they're also sitting up on 4 meters of land at 213 kilometers away. Sounds too incredible for it to look this big, but I'll show you that in a second. Okay. And again, we have the lighthouse, top of which would be at 31 meters above the water. Saggart Hill. Okay. Here's Saggart Hill. This would be where the peak is from Saggart Hill at 234 kilometers away. Okay, Saggart Hill is 391 meters up. Saggart Hill, obviously, would be tapering off, would be at this height directly behind the supposed golf building. Okay, it would be at 301 meters. And then, of course, the golf building at 20 meters. I have it at 20 meters above the water. Okay, it would be this way. This is exactly how it would look. Now, obviously, it would be all this kind of muchy color, but you would notice this because they would actually be bigger than this, at least in breadth. Okay. Here's the math that supports that. Simple right triangle math. Okay. I used a calculator online to just get all the numbers. The smokestacks at a distance of 213,000 meters, at a height of 211 meters, your angle of view would be 0.057 degrees. Okay, that's how much of your view it would take up above the water. The lighthouse, okay, the lighthouse at 31 meters above the water at 82.4 kilometers. That is 31 meters above the water at 82,400 meters away, would be at 0.022 degrees above the surface of the water. This one right here is the golf building. Same thing, 20 meters above the water, 80.5 kilometers away from St. B's, 0.014 degrees of your view above the water. And Saggart Hill. Okay, I didn't make a screen capture of the one for the hill itself, just the part of how high it would be behind the supposed building. And just to show you, 301 meters up, because that's the height that is stated on the elevation map. And even if it was off by 100 meters, it wouldn't make a big difference here. Okay, but 301 meters at 234,000 meters away would be 0.74 or 0.074 degrees above the surface of the water. That's really all it is, and that would be the highest point in this entire photo. Good enough for you? That's the short view. That's the short version. These are the findings that I made. Now, like I said, I've been told that other guys like Geo and I don't know who all was involved. I really didn't hear. So if I leave you out, that is not intentional. People have identified every building, every hill, every bump along that entire setup of footage and composite. It has nothing to do with Ireland. You can't see Ireland from there. You just can't. Now, if you want to have discussions about what you should and shouldn't be able to see on the Isle of Man, think about these degrees again versus distance. Okay, tiny little bits of degrees, and these are the close objects. Okay, obviously the land, and obviously the buildings. Now I realize that some of these things might apparently be below the curvature on a sphere without an atmosphere. Okay, but I invite you, as I always do, to go watch Dang Joss's videos about what the density of air does over distance. It makes things within about a half a degree of the horizon, it makes them visible. You won't get very much distance out of that, but you'll get a couple extra miles out of it. Okay? So that's all I got. Why I won't go on again, why I won't go on to Nathan's Hangout? Simple. I invite anybody to just listen to 5 minutes of that shit. Really. I mean, the level of arrogance over there is just it's not even worth the time. And by the way, I do have to make an apology because either I didn't notice or I was concentrating on the fact that Anthony said that he was going to bed. And I was frustrated with the fact that he wouldn't answer my questions at first. And it was pointed out to me actually later, before Anthony put out his video, it was pointed out to me in the after the hangout by Sean that he was actually saying that he had actually answered my question. And Anthony, I'm a big enough man. I apologize. I didn't know you had answered it, or somehow it just didn't click to me that you had answered it. And so, hey, I apologize. That was my bad. I should have let you in because you did exactly what you said you were going to do. But nevertheless, that's all I got. Don't want it to make it any longer than this. I hope you guys have a pleasant evening.